Welcome back, everyone. Today we come to Revelation chapter 7. This is one of the most comforting and hope-filled chapters in the entire book. We've witnessed some terrifying and dramatic events of Revelation 6, which closed on the natural question, for the great day of their wrath has come, and who can stand? Revelation 7 pauses the unfolding judgments to answer that question, and it answers it with two beautiful visions. Before the seventh seal is opened, God slows the narrative and allows John to see something that reassures the hearts of believers in every generation. God knows his people. He marks them as his own. He protects them according to his purposes, and he will ultimately bring them safely into his presence. John begins by seeing four angels standing at the four corners of the earth. This phrase, four corners, is a biblical expression referring to the whole earth. It's not a statement about its shape. These angels restrain the four winds, and throughout Scripture, winds often symbolize God's judgments or his powerful acts among the nations. Another angel appears, and this angel is carrying what John calls the seal of the living God. In the ancient world, a seal indicated ownership, authenticity, protection, and authority. Kings sealed documents, merchants sealed goods, and owners marked their possessions. In the same way, God seals his servants on their foreheads before the next wave of judgments proceeds. So the seal identifies them as belonging to him, and nothing can touch them apart from his sovereign will. This sealing reminds us that God knows exactly who his people are, and that his care for them is intentional and personal. John then hears a number, 144,000, sealed from every tribe of the sons of Israel. The number is formed by 12 tribes multiplied by 12,000, so it creates a symbolic total of 144,000. Faithful Christians have understood this group in different ways. Some see them as literal Israelites whom God will seal during a future period of tribulation, emphasizing the explicit reference to the tribes of Israel. Others, however, understand the number symbolically, and they note that 12 often represents the people of God, and 12 squared multiplied by 1,000 suggests completeness and fullness. In this view, the 144,000 represent the complete people of God, those who are spiritually protected by him. And there's an interesting pattern that appears here, because John hears the number, but later he sees an innumerable multitude. Some interpreters notice that Revelation often uses this pattern, where what John hears is interpreted or expanded by what he sees, just as he heard about the Lion of Judah, but saw the Lamb in Revelation chapter 5. Others believe these are two distinct groups. So the text allows us, readers, to weigh these possibilities carefully. The tribal list itself differs from Old Testament lists because Dan, the tribe of Dan, is omitted. Joseph appears alongside Manasseh, and Scripture does not explain why. Many suggestions have been offered, but it is perhaps wise not to be dogmatic where the text itself is silent. What matters, however, is that God's people are known, they are counted, and they are sealed by Him. After hearing the number, John sees something entirely different, a great multitude that no one could number, from every nation, tribe, people, and language. This fulfills God's promise that His salvation would extend to all nations. They stand before the throne and before the Lamb, wearing white robes that symbolize purity, victory, and righteousness. They hold palm branches, which in Jewish tradition were associated with celebration, joy, and triumph. Their cry is simple but also powerful. They cry, "Salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb." So salvation belongs to both the Father and the Lamb. And this highlights Christ's full participation in God's saving work. The angels, the elders, and the living creatures join in worship. And this worship offers a sevenfold doxology, as it's called, of blessing, glory, wisdom, thanksgiving, honor, power, and might. One of the elders then asks John a question. Who are these clothed in white robes? And before John can answer, the elder explains, these are the ones coming out of the great tribulation. So depending on one's approach to Revelation, this phrase can refer to a specific future period of intense suffering, or more broadly to the afflictions God's people endure throughout life in a fallen world. Christians have understood this in different ways, but the theological truth remains the same. These are people who have endured hardship and remained faithful to Christ. The elder continues with one of the most beautiful paradoxes in Scripture. Their robes are white because they have washed them in the blood of the Lamb. Normally blood stains, but Christ's blood cleanses. This points directly to the atoning work of Jesus, who purifies His people through His sacrifice. Their blessings are described in detail. They serve God continually. They dwell in His presence. They hunger no more and thirst no more. They suffer no scorching heat. The Lamb becomes their shepherd, and this echoes Psalm 23 and also Jesus' teaching in John chapter 10. And the chapter concludes with one of the most comforting promises in the entire Bible. God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Historically, seals in the ancient world communicated, as we've seen, ownership and protection. Census imagery recalled Old Testament moments when Israel was counted before battle, for example, suggesting that God's people are portrayed as His prepared army, not fighting with earthly weapons, but standing faithfully under His protection. And palm branches symbolize joy and victory, especially during the Feast of Tabernacles. And for believers who were facing persecution under Rome, the vision of a redeemed multitude from every nation offered profound encouragement. Their suffering would not have the final word. God's redeemed people would one day gather in joyful worship before His throne. So Revelation 7 teaches us that God knows those who belong to Him. Before judgment advances, God seals His servants. And whether we understand the sealing literally, symbolically, or both, the point is clear. God knows His own. Nothing can separate believers from His saving purpose. This chapter also teaches that the church is wonderfully diverse. The multitude comes from every nation, tribe, people and language. So the gospel is not confined to one ethnicity or one culture. Christ's kingdom gathers people from every corner of the earth, and this fulfills God's promise to bless all nations through Abraham. Revelation 7 reminds us that our cleansing comes only through Christ. The image of robes washed in the blood of the Lamb shows that salvation is entirely God's work. We are not made clean by good works or religious effort, but we are made clean through the sacrificial death of Jesus, through his shed blood on the cross. And finally, Revelation 7 lifts our eyes beyond present suffering. Many believers endure hardship, persecution, illness, or grief, but God promises a future where hunger ends, thirst ends, sorrow ends, tears end, and fellowship with God never ends. The Lamb who was sacrificed becomes the shepherd who leads his people forever. His care does not end at the moment of conversion, but it continues into eternity. So this beautiful chapter, Revelation 7, is like an interlude of hope between the 6th and 7th seals. And when we arrive at Revelation 8, the 7th seal is finally opened, and the first thing John records may surprise us. There was silence in heaven for about half an hour. After the thunderous worship of chapters 4, 5 and 7, heaven falls silent, and that silence prepares us for the solemn trumpet judgments that follow. And it also reminds us of the awe-inspiring holiness of God's righteous acts. Revelation 7 assures us that while God's judgments are real, his grace is equally real. Those who belong to the Lamb are never forgotten, and their future is one of unending worship, perfect peace, and the comforting presence of God himself. Thank you for listening. See you next time.